It looks like we've had a handful of people go ahead and join us, so I'm going to hand things over to our regional director, Mr. Matthew Ng.
Hey, aloha everyone. Well, thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Matthew Ng. I am the regional director for the ANA Pacific Region TTA Center. We are very grateful to be able to host this webinar. I know a lot of our grantees and our community here in the Pacific rely on census data, not only to support some of the funding that helps to sustain our community-based projects, but also to gain access to data that helps us to improve the quality of our projects and to ensure that the communities that we served get the kinds of outcomes that they are asking for. So I'm completely grateful to the team here at the U.S. Census. On screen, you see Census Bureau Regional Director Julie Lam. In April 2019, we were honored to be able to host some of the census team out in Nanakuli at the home of our founder, Keone Nunez, who founded our company Ka'ana Ni'au. And we have the privilege of serving as a resource for the Administration for Native Americans here in the Pacific. We were able to have a small Ava ceremony with some of the team from the census as they were on the ground kicking off some of the efforts here in Hawaii, specifically for outreach to our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities. And that was the start of our commitment to supporting the complete count committees and all of the good work that's happening. And yeah, we are ecstatic to be able to, continue with that commitment. And we hope that you all can join us as well in helping our people to exercise their right to be counted. And so thank you for joining us again. At this time, I'd like to pass it off to ANA Commissioner Jeannie Hovland. Jeannie was confirmed by the Senate in June 2018, and as commissioner, she oversees ANA's discretionary funding programs to American Indians, Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. And she serves as an advocate for Native Americans and coordinates activities within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to develop policies, programs, and budgets affecting Native Americans, all under the authority of the Native American Programs Act. Commissioner Hovland also serves in a dual role to the Deputy Assistant Secretary to Native American Affairs, affirming the government-to-government relationship between ACF, the Administration for Children and Families, and Indian tribes. And she also serves as the chair of the ACF Native American Affairs Council and provides advice, opinions, and reviews policies within ACF. We were also, very honored to be able to host the commissioner as she visited different Pacific peoples, first in Hawaii and then in Guam and CNMI. And so, the commissioner will be talking more about that in her opening remarks. Commissioner Hovland is an enrolled member of the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe of South Dakota, and we are very grateful to have her here to frame this session for us. So go ahead, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
okay, good. Just want to make sure. Thank you, Matt, for this opportunity. And Petuashte Madakiapi, Chante Washte Nape Chusapi, Jeannie Hovland Amachiapi, Santioyate Matahan, Commissioner to Administration for Native Americans at Wawashi Chamu. Good afternoon, my relatives. I greet you with a good heart. Again, I'm Jeannie Hovland. I'm a proud member of the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe located in South Dakota, and I am Commissioner of the Administration for Native Americans. I'm so pleased to be here today. Again, thank you to Matt, and a special mahalo to the partnership specialist. And I apologize for not saying your name as beautifully or eloquently as you can in your language, but Espeleta Ali Malaya Ta and her team at the United States Census Bureau for inviting the Administration for Native Americans to partner on this valuable webinar. We are grateful for the opportunity to promote this once in a decade opportunity to make sure that our Native communities are counted and able to receive the funding and support they deserve. The Administration for Native Americans takes seriously our commitment to serve all American Indian, Alaska Native, and Pacific Islander peoples as they pursue self-determined long-term community goals. While many of our communities share similar histories of multi-generational strength, trauma, and resiliency, we also recognize and honor the unique cultures, perspectives, and lived experiences that make each of our Indigenous communities so special. In November 2018, ANA hosted the first ever Pacific Indigenous People Summit in Washington, D.C. We invited agency heads to listen to ANA grantees from all around the Pacific and continent. Among the priorities what we gathered was a need for additional data specific to Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island communities, as well as access to supplementary funding to help sustain the operations of ANA grantees. Last year, I had the honor to travel to the Pacific and learn more about your communities and how ANA can better serve you. In Hawaii, I was able to greet the voyaging canoe Makali'i as she returned from a journey to the Northwest Islands, and it was crewed by 3 generations of Native Hawaiian leaders. What an honor. It was absolutely beautiful. I toured Native-owned businesses and agricultural projects. I met with Native Hawaiian entrepreneurs and hosted a roundtable to hear directly from our heroes, our Native Hawaiian military veterans. In partnership with the Office on Hawaiian Affairs, a series of roundtable discussions were facilitated, allowing me and other federal agencies the opportunity to hear how we can better support efforts on economic development, revitalizing and restoring the Native Hawaiian language and culture, and tough topics such as combating human trafficking. ANA continues to work closely with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to provide additional support to Native Hawaiian communities and nonprofit organizations. This is why we are so thrilled to be able to feature the wonderful team at the Census Bureau office in Hawaii. In Washington, D.C., we see firsthand how the data collected through the census informs congressional funding formulas and has a direct impact on the number of services available to Native communities. And at the national level, we've been sharing this message through conversations with our current ANA grantees, and as well more broadly through our social media posts on Facebook and Twitter. Our ANA website has been updated to feature various census resources that you can share in your community. Please follow the Administration for Native Americans on our Facebook and Twitter. Today's webinar connects our grantees and other Native community serving organizations with the good folks in the Census Office who are leading these complete count initiatives on the ground in Hawaii. We encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities to make sure the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities that you work with every day are able to exercise their right to be counted. Again, I appreciate this opportunity to share a few words today. And in my language, I say Padamiapi Shto, or in your language, mahalo for this opportunity. Back to you, Matt.
Mahalo nui, Commissioner. Thank you so much for those words and for framing this session. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's presenters. So we are lucky to be able to feature Charlotte Poi and Elisabetta Alai Maleata from the U.S. Census Bureau, Hawaii office partnership specialists who are helping to connect our communities. They'll be followed by Eric Coyle, the data dissemination specialist for the U.S. Census Bureau, who can talk about how data can be used to enhance our projects and what we do on the ground here with our communities. And then we'll be hearing from Richard Medeiros, who is helping to lead the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Complete Count Committee with the Census Bureau, and maybe how you can get involved as well. So at this time, I'll pass it off to Charlotte to present on behalf of the census.
Mahalo, Matt. Aloha. Mahalo, Commissioner. That was a fantastic introduction and a great segue for us into this session, right? Looking at data for our people. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump right into it for us. Really quickly, I come from the west side of Oahu, Waianae 96792, and a lot of what I've seen before, right, as far as what our community needs are, how do we initiate and mobilize ourselves, is based largely upon numbers and data and where that data shows up and how it's utilized. So I'm going to jump right into it, get right into our presentation, and then drill down so we can get through our other partners over here. So this session, we started talking about, right, the impacts and understanding the cause and effect of the 2020 census. We say 2020 census because it is the immediacy and right now. However, every census, right, once in a decade, we have the opportunity to influence one representation in Congress, because it is mandated in the Constitution that we do this count once every 10 years, right? We have to let our leadership know where we are. We want to make sure the distribution of the seats in Congress are fair, so we have fair representation. And then also in the at the end part, and what's really much more relevant to our communities is the distribution of funding that comes from participation in the census, right? Over $675 billion every year. We know it's going to go up. That number is projected to be higher, but right now, historically, it's been over $675 billion. That comes down directly from the federal level to the state levels. And then from there gets disseminated and shared out according to where our population on the ground is, right? To the counties and then into our communities. So that's really important for us. We have a chance ourselves as individuals to say who we are, where we are, right? What ethnic or language group we make up, so that decision makers, people in positions of power and authority, can help us to funnel resources to the correct places. So let's move forward on this one. So what is the census? The census is a complete and accurate count of all of our people and our households, right? That in the United States and territories. We are in this trajectory kind of right now in self-response. We've done a lot of outreach education prior to this, and we continue to do it, right? Education and learning is ongoing, and this applies to the census as well. Right now, we are continually asking people, even in the midst of COVID-19, to please respond to the census if you've gotten your invitation. You have a household ID number that comes with your invitation. So right here in this self-response area, right, this journey, you have a household ID number that you could go online and it will take you like 10 minutes. So think about it as 10 minutes to respond to the census online for 10 years, right? To inform how our resources come down to us. Our goal, right, in communities, if you're here, you've been interested in ANA grants or funding and any of the programs, you are already looking at how to add value, improve the quality of life in your communities and meet the needs, right? What we're trying to do here also, and what this count does, is how we respond and the numbers we respond with tell our decision makers, it tells Congress where to distribute those fundings and the resources, where to build new schools, where we might need additional first responders or fire stations. We have to tell them where we're at. Nobody comes out and says, I think you are this or this. Solutions come from within our communities, and this is one additional way where we bring resources, we bring expertise to our communities. Now, if by the time we don't, people are not responding at the end of the self-response, and right now we've extended that period, and I'll go into the timeline in a little more detail later. But traditionally, this has been a pathway that would end at the end of the year, right? December 31st, all the data collected would be tabulated, calculated, and sent to the president. However, with COVID-19, just as it's impacted our communities and our families, the same things for our operations. So we'll go into that. What we've been really pressing upon and really pushing is for people to self-respond online. One, it's safer. There's no interaction, and you can do it on your own, right? So what are they asking on this questionnaire. For those of you who are not familiar or who have done your questionnaires before, you know it used to be a lot longer, right? It is much shorter now, about 9 questions. And these are the questions that are basically on there. And if you look at some of these questions as grantees, a lot of times we know what data we need to pull to justify some of the programs that we want to initiate in our communities, right? If we are serving a particular age bracket, or if we're serving a particular ethnic group, or if we want to do language, right? So these questions are relevant to the data we want to use for a lot of our programs or our projects. And most definitely, it helps our communities down into our community levels, right? Understand who we are, where we're at, and gives our leadership direction in how to make best decisions for us. Okay. One thing I do want to highlight over here is on the self-identification of your race and the Hispanic. So I think it was 2000, right? We finally got a Native Hawaiian, it was pulled out, so you can check that box. But for other ethnic groups as well, where there are still subcategories within those ethnic groups, you can check mark a box and still write in, like Japanese, right? There's a movement on the ground here, especially in Hawaii, where our Okinawan community wants to be designated and identified and recognized as Okinawan. And just like with Native Hawaiians, we have Native Hawaiian education monies, Native Hawaiian health monies, right? It becomes relevant when you start looking at data that is collected, compiled, and reported in those ways. So I mentioned earlier our new timeline. Before, self-response would have gone to the end of July. We started sending out invitations in mid-March, about March 12th, people started getting them in their mail, and we would have finished the collection of those at the end of July. However, with COVID-19, Census has extended that through October 31st. Our goal for Hawaii is not to wait till October 31st, but to try and continue to encourage and really inspire and mobilize our people to act now, right? Don't procrastinate, act now. We know that in order to get things done, we have to start somewhere. So this is where we would want to start, especially to influence the next 10 years and the ability for us to plan. You can do it online, like I said, right here, 2020census.gov or my2020census.gov. They both have access. One takes you directly to the questionnaire itself. The other takes you to the website that hosts it, but also has a lot of really great information. Phone, a lot of our kupuna or our elders like to do it by phone still yet, or even in our rural areas where connectivity and internet is spotty or not an option, you can still do it by phone. And then the last option would be paper. Right, so either come in the mail or you have somebody during our follow-up, our non-response period, someone will come to see you. But if there's the concerns, now there's a lot of health concerns, right? But the priority for the Census Bureau is always to protect the health and the safety of our community and our staff, right? And we want to make sure we're also following the federal, local guidelines on the best practices for health and safety out there. So we are encouraging, please go online and do it or call in to complete your census. Don't wait till the end. And if you don't want anybody coming to your house, best thing to do is respond now, okay? And then the goal is to submit the report I talked about that would have gone to the president at the end of the year in April, and then redistricting counts to the states in July. So for Hawaii, I'm going to use this as an example. For Hawaii, we have this operation called Update Leave. Update Leave is where our residents do not receive their mail, right? Update Leave happens in areas where residents do not receive U.S. postal mail delivery to their homes. They have to get their mail from a P.O. box. So it's not areas where we decide that, oh, we want a P.O. box. It is areas where people have no option but to have a P.O. box for that. So what happens is, since the census mission is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place is where their physical housing unit is. So a worker would go, verify that address, scan that household ID that's on the invitation, and leave the packet there for the family. So there's really no interaction, but it is a physical and immediate or real-time verification of a location for that housing unit attached to that invitation or to that questionnaire. We want to make sure data is accurate and data is timely, and this is one of the ways we've done it. So if you've seen some of our response rates for our neighbor islands, they're low because the update leave area for like Kauai is about 40%, right? Same for Hawaii Island. Honolulu only has 2%. We have a larger percent of self-response. So our response rate is higher because people have gotten their invitations in the mail, right? We are looking at restarting in June. So the target date, we don't have it, confirmed right now, but our target date is to start up our Honolulu ACO operations office June 1st and to be back out in the field by June 13th. By that time, right, we hope that enough of our community has heard the messaging, is convinced and inspired to respond when they get those paper, those invitations. We've worked really, really hard and smart. We tried to work smart too over these months that we've been in kind of a lockdown, right? Everybody's been in lockdown, to strategize. How do we shift? Native people like to gather together physically, right? We get together around food, we get together to talk stories. And a lot of our outreach was based upon that. But with COVID-19, we've had to shift and we've had to figure out how to be smart. How do we continue to reach our communities and our people who normally would not respond? And in order to do some of those things, we've partnered with a number of organizations and across a lot of sectors, right? So once we open up, we are going to see how our messaging for update leave has worked, because then we'll see a spike in response, hopefully. If not, then we have to shift and adjust, right? But we're resilient people, we're responsive to our needs, and we'll figure out what we need to do together. So I mentioned some hard to count populations. If you look over here, Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders are highlighted and really pointed out as a hard to count population. There's a variety of reasons why that is. Part is we just don't engage, right? There is mistrust, misinformation. There is also language barriers a lot of times. So we've come together and tried to figure out ways, like I mentioned earlier, who do we work with in those areas that could help us to push the messaging? Who's trusted in those areas? You see also children under 5. In the 2010 census, we undercounted our children by over 1 million. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So those are also targeted or intentional outreach points that we're looking at. Rural communities, a lot of our communities are rural, especially on the neighbor islands, lower income. I live in a community that has been historically lower income, right? Racial ethnic minorities, even in Hawaii, that's kind of us, and our population continues to fluctuate as well regarding Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders in our home here. And then definitely people experiencing homelessness. A lot of our Native organizations are creating projects and programs around how to address these populations, because we're finding that more and more of them are our Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders as well. So Census has specialized outreach approaches. One definitely is for different geographic areas, like remote areas of Alaska, some of our island areas, and the tribal areas as well. We also have group quarters where we would enumerate or count our people who live in long-term care homes, nursing homes, college dormitories, military barracks, and correctional facilities as well. Transitory locations, if people don't have other living places, but they are living in like a motel, a long-term motel area. And then military and federal employees living overseas. The other one is our homeless and houseless population, and we work with service providers. So if you're familiar with our point in time count, it is very much like that. And we want to make sure we partner with the service providers who know where these populations are and where they move around to, right? So those dates have not been set yet for our homeless population, but it is coming up because we have to do it We need the resources, one, for that. We need the expertise and experience around it. And we need to find solutions for that. So one of the other ways that is an extremely effective approach and activity to reach our hard to count has been to work with complete count committees. You heard it briefly earlier that we have Richard Medeiros here from CNHA, who will talk about what they've been doing, what's been going on around on the ground, and they pull together all of our complete count committees. We work with them because they're able to mobilize people, bring people together around a common cause or common goal. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Richard to share. Oh wait, sorry, hold on. Not yet, sorry, Richard. Hold on to their thought. Keep the complete count committees. That's why I highlighted it in blue for you. Hold on to their thought. We're gonna come back to the complete count committees, okay, and their work. But I did wanna talk about a tool that we use that is also how we specialize our approach to reaching our hard to count communities. And this is a tool that you can use as well. It's free and accessible. It's called ROAM. It's our Response Outreach Area Mapper. And it was developed to make it easier for us, for Census and us to identify where our low responding areas are, right? And then also to find out what some of the stats, the demographics behind those, or the information behind it, like what are they high or low English language speaking, right? Is it a high ethnic group? I'll show you what I mean in the next one. Understanding these, so this is some of the information that would come up if you click on a census tract, and I used my Ahupua'a over here in Waianae. When you get into Rome and you do a search, and just to let you know, I did send Matt a document that explains how you can use Rome, okay? When you get into there and you find a census tract, like say it's your neighborhood, right? You click on it, and this is some of the information on the left side that will come up, and it'll tell you what your population is made of in this specific area. And sometimes when we look at why they might be high non-response area is, okay, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, or in some areas it might be, you know, Chinese speakers or Hispanic. So maybe it's a language barrier, right? It helps us to craft strategies and tactics to overcome some of the challenges. And this is not only with census, right? Even though we are specifically talking about census to find out where the areas are in our communities that are low response, but even for other work when you're serving your communities in different capacities, this is a great tool to use as well. And this is the URL where you can access it. census.gov/Rome. Simple, okay? Oh, and so, there are a couple of ways where we do the work we do in the field. Elisabetta and I, as you heard Matt mention, are partnership specialists, right? We're part of this census program called the Community Partnership and Engagement Program. Our job and our work since we've started has been to go out and reach our communities and people in the communities to educate, raise awareness, encourage people to support, and bring people on to work with us to forward the census messaging. We want our people to make wise decisions, so we want to share the information, the correct and accurate data, and definitely to, you know, share why it's important and how it affects us, not just, you know, overall, but generally. It does come down to our communities, and that's part of our job and what we have to do. We do that also in partnership with our national level partnership, and these are partners that are not just here locally in Hawaii, but also some partners that span across the nation. They have influence and outreach nationally and into the territory sometimes. And we also do work very closely with subject matter experts from headquarters itself. So I want to bring on and introduce and open up for Eric Coyle. Eric Coyle is our data dissemination specialist from the US Census Bureau. So once we're done here in the 2020 census, he's still available and around to access data needs. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up for Eric to go ahead and talk about the data component and how you can access some of that too. So let me go ahead and mute myself. Eric, you there?
And to joining. And okay, yep, I'm here. Mahalo to everyone for joining and for hosting the webinar as well, and for giving me the opportunity to share some information as far as on the data dissemination side. So as Shard already pointed out, the partnership specialists are really integral into reaching out to the community and ensuring everyone is aware and understanding of why it's so important to respond to the census. And as a data dissemination specialist, I'm really charged with making sure once that data is collected and then made available to the public via census.gov and other tools that we have available, like data.census.gov, the new platform that we have created to replace American Fact Finder. So if you can go to the next slide to show data.census.gov. That is what I'm charged with, to make sure that when that data is made available, that people know how to access it and have a resource that they can reach out to get help accessing the data when it is made available. So that is basically the mission of the data dissemination specialists that are scattered all across the country, much like partnership specialists. Granted, there aren't as many of us as there are partnership specialists. Not that we don't want that many, but we are few and far between, but we do cover the entire U.S., including Puerto Rico. I do cover the state of Hawaii, which I was actually a former resident of for 17 years. I was stationed there as a Marine and got out and worked for the Army as a civilian. And then the Census Bureau took me in another direction, which was a great opportunity to process data that was no longer classified and available and open to the public, which I absolutely love. So, so as you can see, what you should be looking at is the new platform, data.census.gov, which, as I mentioned, is basically what has been created to replace American Fact Finder. We knew a lot of people loved American Fact Finder. Some people didn't love it so much, but I know that there were a lot of people that did make a lot of use out of it. The issue that we had with American Fact Finder was it still had some limitations to it, and also it was a separate tool that didn't function off our API, which is our application programming interface. And that's basically the code behind the data. Data.census.gov is a brand new tool that's going to allow data users to basically be able to manipulate the data a little bit better than they were in AFF. Now, that is a work in progress. Unfortunately, we weren't able to keep AFF around due to the contract ending, and we just had to basically shut it down due to that end. So data.census.gov is a work in progress. What's going to make this tool even better than we have designed it, and we hope, our hopes are for it, is the feedback we get from our data users that are actually utilizing this new platform. So I highly encourage you to use data.census.gov and provide that feedback. Share that feedback, that user experience, whether good, whether bad, any suggestions you have, things that you want, things that you really liked about American Fact Finder if you used that platform before, but you want to see maybe transferred into data.census.gov if it can be. There are incremental updates that are coming into this tool. If you go onto the website, I highly recommend looking at the release notes. The release notes are updated pretty much monthly and will tell you what data is in there, what changes have been made, if any, certain things to keep you up to speed. There's also on the bottom part of the page will show you some really good, sort of like challenges that we're already aware of, some obstacles, and some of the sort of troubleshooting with data.census.gov. Again, this is a brand new platform. It is not without its glitches. I often recommend to people to use Chrome. That is the best browser we found to utilize data.census.gov. And of course, my job is to also be a resource to help guide you through the website as well. If you go to the next slide, that shows you the various search options on data.census.gov. You can see there is a single search and an advanced search. Now, I can tell you, using AFF for many years, some of the things that you can do in data.census.gov right off the bat are incredibly much faster than they were through American Fact Finder. The single search will allow you to type in a full sentence to try to get the data you're looking for. The result will usually give you, if I typed in poverty in Hawaii, I'm going to instantly get a statistic based on poverty in Hawaii. If I type in poverty in Honolulu, CDP, I can also get that statistic. One thing to note about Hawaii that's very unique, it is the only state in the country where every single city and town is considered a census designated place, a CDP. I won't get much more into that because that's a whole geography lesson that I usually do during my workshops. But that allows us to actually provide data for all those cities and towns, the townships that you have scattered across all the islands, because we don't produce data for just the island of Oahu or Kauai or Lanai, that tiny little island next to Maui. So it's one of those things that is beneficial to gathering data, producing data, tabulating data within the islands of Hawaii, is to be able to say that all the towns, every single city and town in Hawaii is a census designated place, identifying as an unincorporated area to tabulate data for. So you can do that. You can type in Kapolei into data.census.gov. You can type in IA. You can type in Waimanalo, whatever, other islands as well, Lihue, if you're in Kauai. So all those, you can do through data.census.gov. If you go to the next slide, if you're looking for population data, which is a common, when I deal with a lot of my grant writers out there, data users out there from Hawaii, they're often looking for, just because Native Hawaiian as a race group, in accordance with the Office of Management and Budget guidelines, is identified as Native Hawaiian and or other Pacific Islanders. So those are really two separate race groups when you think about it. And so if you break them apart into just Native Hawaiian alone, you can do that through data.census.gov. You just would select your topics, go to race and ethnicity, then select Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander. What you'll notice next to the selections that you can make in data.census.gov is that you have a box next to some variables or nomenclatures for race, ethnicity under the topics, and then some do not have a box. If you see a box next to a selection item, that means that that is the final selection. So if you check that box, you cannot go any further. If you don't see a box next to something like, as you see here, where we clicked on race and ethnicity, Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, then further into detailed Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, you'll see that that continues to go forth until we get to the box finally that says Native Hawaiian alone. Okay. From there, you could then go into geography and select your geography, which would be the state of Hawaii. I would caution you, when using a very specific detailed race group, especially for the state of Hawaii, you may and often will run into issues with data suppression. Census Bureau will suppress data for two very important reasons. One is foremost to protect privacy. So we cannot allow anyone, due to federal law, Title 13, that says we have to protect everyone's privacy. It's paramount. We cannot share with any other agency, period. So we also cannot allow our savvy data users out there to identify individuals using our data. So therefore, you would want to make sure that if you are going to go into specific detailed characteristics of the population, you're probably going to have to stick to either those high-level geographies because of that data suppression that occurs due to privacy concerns or due to sample size. The sample of that of that selected population group doesn't meet the sort of criteria that we have for publishing data, there may be data suppression available, which basically results from no data available. So those are really the two very important reasons. Our standard for estimates coming from the American Community Survey, which is the annual survey we use to collect a lot of the socioeconomic, housing, demographic characteristics on an annual basis, that is a 90% confidence interval in those estimates. Okay, so moving on into the next slide, you can see that where you're probably going to get the most data, at least from not just the state, but at the county level, maybe even for some cities and towns, looking at, Honolulu, of course, for the state of Hawaii, is going to be when you look at the detailed Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander alone or in any combination. So that is probably one of the most widely utilized variables. That 062 code is very familiar. That's what people would type in an American Fact Finder. And that will generally give you more data available down to lower levels of geography. Excuse me. So this is just kind of a quick preview to data.census.gov. There's a lot you can do with this new platform. We also have a lot of other data tools available, and we have resources. If you go to the next slide to census.gov/academy, we have additional resources for you to actually go into our website and at your leisure look at some YouTube videos, some short videos we refer to as data gems, which are very short how-to videos on how to access data through various platforms, including data.census.gov, some other tools. We have new data gems coming out pretty much every month on various topics, so I'd highly recommend looking at those. We also have courses. So if you're a developer out there and want to know how to use our application programming interface, our API, which is how you could build maps, create your own data apps, and do all kinds of great stuff with our APIs. You can actually go into our courses and look at some of the ways that you can utilize our data and utilize those tools. And then we also have webinars. So every month we're producing national webinars. Some are from the data dissemination staff, and some are actually come directly from the subject matter experts as well. And then we also collaborate with them as a team when we do certain webinars. So highly recommend visiting Census Academy and subscribing. You can get up to date on new webinars that are being posted, new data gems, and new courses that are made available. This is another new platform that we are revising, and we're also looking for feedback. So if you have a suggestion for a data gem, if you have a suggestion for a course, if you have a suggestion for a webinar topic, feel free to share that with us. We are taking all feedback very seriously. Excuse me. And then if you have any sort of need for data training, if you go to the next, my last slide here with my contact information, if you have any questions about data, how to access the data, have trouble looking for data, specific data you're interested in, you're more than welcome to reach out to me via phone, via email. Keep in mind that although I do cover the state of Hawaii, I also cover the state of Nevada, I cover the state of Arizona, and I cover a portion of the state of Texas where I currently reside. So what that means is that I am on Central Time, 5 hours ahead. So if you call me in the evening on Hawaii time, I'm probably not going to answer my phone. But leave a voicemail, I will get back to you. If I'm not available for whatever reason, there is a toll-free number, our 1-844-ASK-DATA number, and there's also a census.askdata@census.gov email address that you can utilize as well. We want to make sure, as much as our partnership specialists that are out there, making sure everyone knows why it's so important to respond to the census, we're also, want to make sure that people can get access to the data after it's collected and then published. So whether you know it or not, the Census Bureau is not just out there once every 10 years collecting data for the decennial census. We actually collect data from over 130 surveys and programs each and every single year. We produce data every single month of every single year. And so that means that this data is out there on our website, but a lot of people aren't aware of it or know how to access it, whether it's business data, whether it's employment data, labor force statistics, whether it's socioeconomic, what have you, housing, all that information, all that data is out there on our website, and we're more than happy to help you access it, free of charge, of course, like our data. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We do provide webinars. Obviously, we're more used to doing our workshops in person. We love the in-person trainings, the hands-on approach to walk people through how to access the data, but obviously during this time, we are only doing virtual trainings. We have our own platform that we use, which is WebEx, and it's free service that everyone can access just as much as Zoom is. So if you have a need for a webinar or a topic of any kind, or just want to walk through of a particular data tool, we have many, not just the one showcased here. I definitely encourage you to reach out. And so with that, I'll pass the baton back over to Shar, and thank you again for your time.
Mahalo, Eric. So like Eric said, right, there was concern about data safety and confidentiality. As census staff, we take a lifetime oath, right? Title 13 says we take a lifetime oath to protect that data. So when our job with Elisa Peta and I are done as partnership specialists, that oath still applies for us. And it is protected. It is to make sure that, like Eric said, right, when he talked briefly about data suppression, the safety and the privacy of everyone's data. So we protect that. Anything that comes out, all this, the products he talked about, the data products, all in statistical format only. Yeah, can't identify individuals by that. So thank you so much, Eric, for sharing that. I'm going to move over. Remember when I asked you to kind of hold on to the thought about the complete count committees? We form complete count committees because they're structured, they are focused in helping to convene people around a common goal, right? And they are composed of multiple sectors, multiple organizations, and community members, right? Why do we have complete count communities? And why do we say over here that it is not Census Bureau managed, it is community led and directed? Is because no one knows your communities like you do, right? You know what the needs are, the challenges are, and you can also develop solutions or ideas to solutions to try from within those communities. As Native people, we understand that we can develop and we have ancestral knowledge that is paired with our 21st technology to help us develop these things. I got that from Kamu Inos at Ma'o, which is so apt for us, right? But I also want to bring Richard on. He's going to go through what our NHPI CCC is doing, some great work. I'm not going to speak anymore of that. Richard, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Shar. So I'm going to go, let me get my screen shared. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go as quickly as I can to get through this, but my name is Richard Medeiros. I come from Nanakuli, Oahu, which is neighboring to Shar's district. And I work for the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, which chairs the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Complete Count Committee. So I always want to go into the why before the what and the how. So why is it important to us? We get billions of dollars of federal funds every year. These are just some of the programs that, especially right now, are really, really needed. So SNAP programs, WIC, Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, school lunch programs. We want to make sure that our people are taken care of properly. Additionally, from a Native Hawaiian standpoint, census data is released after 72 years so that we can do genealogy research. And if anybody is curious about that, the URL is over there, census.gov/history/www/genealogy. Very important for us to be able to trace our roots and to trace back using census data to find out where we came from and where our ancestors were at any given point in time. Elephant in the room, of course, is COVID-19. And we've changed our operations at the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement to do some emergency assistance work. But the census data is also what actually helps us do this. So we've created cards. We're working with food banks and different community organizations to get people to submit their data for census because it gives us information like this. If you go to covid19.census.gov, there are a lot of resources for every state, for every city and county. And it tells you exactly what you need. And when resources are made available, it's going to be distributed through this data. It's already a handbook for the different government layers to use, and it's really cool information to find. So this was as of yesterday. I checked briefly this morning. There's only been minor percentage changes in this, but Hawaii self-response rate's 54.5%. Of course, Honolulu, City and County of Honolulu has the highest rates, and the neighbor islands, we have a little bit more work to do on that. But I know the Census Bureau is working on that as well as we're working on getting those numbers up. So our work. So When we first decided to enter into this, my CEO, Kuhio Lewis, decided to get together a group of organizations that benefit from Census. So we expanded our network, and then he immediately went into fundraising, not just for my position, but to do more work, direct service work to help with the Census efforts. So we expanded our network. We helped build capacity. We put on an RFP for grant funding so that we could assist smaller community organizations with doing outreach to their communities. We got a little bit out of our comfort zone. We usually work just with Native Hawaiian organizations, but we opened this up to be all Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander organizations. So we've committed over $100,000 so far to community organizations to assist with that outreach. And we did it through pre-COVID. We had a lot of event sponsorships, items at these tablings. We have had to change a lot of that. We did plan to do canvassing face-to-face and even more events than we actually got to across all of the neighbor islands. We have had to change that. We did do a May concert. We partnered with Kalaimoku Group, who did another concert. We're doing more virtual events. We're still planning on doing some canvassing as soon as restrictions ease up, but we've changed everything over to phone banking. And as far as phone banking, we have a very aggressive strategy where we pulled a list of 90,000 phone numbers in hard to count communities. We sent out robocalls with people from their communities so that we could figure out which phone numbers were actually accurate and working. So we got that number down to about 40,000, and we've started having actual humans reaching out to call all of these. We did prioritize it from the harder to count to the easier to count communities. So we are still actively working on that every day right now. And that is the extent of what we're doing. We still have some collateral materials left if people want to reach out to me. Shar has all of my contact information on her final slide, and I'll be available for any questions. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, more than happy to assist any way I can. And going back to you, Shar.
Mahalo, Richard. So like Richard was saying, right, the immediacy of COVID-19, the CARES Act, if we think about the funding that's coming down from CARES Act, highly reliant upon census data. The new House for Heroes Act that's coming out, even more so down by funding program or by program funding, like education, right? So if we think about the importance and the role of data for our people, we're not relegating our people to just be numbers. However, to get the resources, the influence, the representation we need, the data has to be there first. So our ask is, yes, to continue to please yourself respond, ask others to do, if there's opportunities to also share with your organizations and communities. I'm going to share the screen again and let Elisabetta talk about some of the other things that are happening, the movement on the ground with our specific PI groups as well. And I'm going to let her share from there, but please keep in mind that we are not making our people numbers. We are using the numbers as a tool, a vehicle, and a weapon in order to mobilize and move us forward and progress. Okay, so let's go back here. Oops, Colin, I'm going to have to go through this stuff. Sorry. So Elisabetta, can you talk about one of our other big CCCs as well, and then share some of your underground work too? Mahalo.
Talo Falava, we are so grateful to have this opportunity to share with you what we're doing here in Hawaii. As you all know, the U.S. Census Bureau is one of the most premier statistical agency in the whole world. The first census was in 1790. As you can see, that dates back to there's a lot of history in there. So with our state of Hawaii, we are working closely to more than 30 complete count committees at this time. So with that, we rely mostly with our community. Community is key to this whole operation. And at the same time, too, when we look at working with community, education is very important. So working with our partnership specialists, as well as getting all of us out in the community and working with our partners side by side, we do provide a lot of the Census 101 so that our community understands the reason why we do what we do. So at this moment right now with the state of Hawaii, we have more than 1,000 partners. We built that partnership within the Census Bureau, and we are working diligently with our complete count committees. For example, with Richard Madero's coordinating one of our biggest Native Hawaiian Pacific Island Complete Count Committee is so effective in terms of working in the ground and in the field. We also work collaboratively with our government agencies. We have a Hawaii Government Complete Count Committee, and in that Hawaii Government Complete Count Committee is under the DBET office, the Department of Economic Business and Tourism. We have the data center. Working with the Hawaii Data Center, the director is Carly Liddell. So with all these government as well as community, we are hui. We are coming together, working collaboratively. And it's very important for all of us. So some of the examples of things I want to share, this is where we have the storytelling, the data that we also collect tells the story. So even with the work right now that we're doing out in the field, is also, it provides us a story to actually see what is the most effective strategies that we can use in order to work with our community members. So for example, we recently launched the first Samoan census song. This song was developed by one of our complete count committees, and it's all voluntary work. And when you have the community committed to some of these strategies and events, we're actually empowering them to be self-sufficient, to identify what worked best for their community. So developing the Samoan census song was one of the ideas that they looked at. When we look at Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, our community members love music. They love language infused types of activities and events. So we've been utilizing a lot of that, and empowering them to identify what works best for them is one of the best ways that we get the community participate in the census. So another strategy that we used immediately when we got on board last year, we identify other ways to work with our community, which is working with faith-based organizations. A lot of our Pacific Island community, they all come together in faith-based organizations. So one of the strategies that we use as partnership specialists is reaching out to presidents of key church organizations. So, when they sent out an endorsement letter for faith-based organizations to work with with the Census Bureau, that opened up a lot of doors to, partnership. We have more than 100 churches, Pacific Island churches and Native Hawaiian in the nation. So getting the support from our key leaders in the headquarters, from presidents of these church organizations, provided the opportunity for us to work really closely with ministers. Some of our ministers were open to have Zoom meetings. And that is something that is so unique to all of them. Due to COVID-19, we had to shift from face-to-face to virtual. So providing that opportunity and empowering them that, it's possible. We had to, we also hosted several college town hall meetings, these virtual meetings that we established through our partners with the University of Hawaii, Manoa, as well as cultural clubs at Chaminade University, identifying ways to reach the community through virtual communication was key to a lot of us working in the field, and it worked perfectly. So, those are some of the things that I like to share, but I have to say that, our goal here with our leader, Charlotte Poi, is to reach that 100% count. And how do we do that? we hui. We come together as a community, and Hawaii team is so good at that. We have our, even our Hawaii Community Foundation with Robbie Kane. She was able to bring together all nonprofits and organizations and business leaders to come together. And every week we would host meetings because we understand that the goal here is to call for action, something that is so key to all of us as our, the CEO of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement had mentioned, to all of us is calling for action right now. This is the time, and it's very important to take advantage of our new circumstances and draw on the strengths that comes with us right now by taking action and participating in the census. Thank you, Shar. That's all I want to share. There's so much that we have to share, but with the limited time, they can reach out to us and we can share more of our stories.
Mahalo, Peta. So like Elisa Peta said, right, we set a goal as a team to reach 100% response rate. And if you think about it logically, the likelihood of that is low. However, we felt that it did our communities and our people a disservice to cap our progress or attainment, right? So we wanted to set the 100% goal and then just kulia ikonuku, strive for, the best, strive for the highest, strive for that summit, and just put that in our sights as our target and goal. And like she said, the only way we can do that is with partners. We have great established partners right now, but we can always use more, because we do know that there are places and neighborhoods in our communities that we still have to reach. Like she also said, we have, there's so much to share. And if there's opportunities with you folks or any of your organizations to be able to engage and connect and just talk story and kuka, right? It's created a safe space for these conversations to happen, allowing the questions to come out and not feel threatened or feel be able to ask those questions and to be assured that you will be responded to in a respectful and a direct manner, right? The other thing too I want us to think about, because as grant writers, right, I myself am one, and I'm very active in my community, just like Richard. Richard and I both sit on our neighborhood boards too. So there's so much relevancy and everything ties in together. Things are not siloed. As Native people, we know there is a holistic or a pono approach and way to do things together, right? To accomplish generational change. In order to do that, I would like to pose for us that when we think about some of the threats for our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, especially for us in Hawaii, right? One is the challenges we meet. Another is for Hawaii specifically, we are seeing a migration of our people out of the islands to the continent, right? If we think about how funding could be affected by that we would see the shift of NHPI funding from different programs to the continent, right? We might interpret that in some ways as a threat. Now that's if we look at only utilizing existing pools of resources. However, it also presents us an opportunity to increase those resources, right? So we're not having to compete with each other amongst our people for these same limited amounts, but increase those amounts in some way through advocacy, through whatever it is, whatever our forte is as organizations, right? How do we look at this as an opportunity as well? The same with participating in the census, right? In order to get the data we need to be useful, it has to be there in the first place. Please inspire and speak with your communities, with your circles, your family and friends, definitely yourselves. Please complete your surveys. Simple, go online, 10 minutes for 10 years, right? Self-response is best response, it's safest. And these are some other ways that we would love to work with you and call you census ambassadors that we would like to see. Can we work together to get messaging out? Are there networks or avenues you have that we can help provide you with content for, right? Can you help us to open doors to other communities that we could do some introductory stuff to? Do you need, like Eric said, right, more data intense training? So these are some of the things we would like to ask you folks to do. The action, like the call to action is definitely complete your own surveys. Ask at least 5 of your family and friends to do theirs as well. And if we can do it 1 by 1, 5 by 5, exponentially, it will grow and we will attain a very high response rate. Something people won't think we can do, but we can. C.NO. Okay, so with that, I want to say thank you, mahalo. The next slides just have our social media on it and our contact information. And a lot of this information, it was sent to Matthew, so you folks will have some resources and ways to contact us later as well. Matthew, mahalo. We appreciate this time in this space and just being able to engage and connect with you folks here. So mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you to all of our presenters today. Charlotte, Elisabetta, Richard, Eric. Obviously so much just intentionality, so much thoughtfulness, so much respect. Protocol is so important in all the communities that we work with. And obviously, you know, that's just, there's just so much mana in how much time and energy that you guys have obviously put into this thoughtful approach. So just want to thank you all for your time. You know, ANA, the kind of grants that we fund require the community to show how the people are leading the project, right? 50% or more of the board needs to be representative of the community to be served. We need to show evidence that there was community planning and meetings involved, not only in identifying, you know, the way that the project is going to be carried out, but also the kinds of needs that they feel are priorities at the moment and what their vision of, you know, their long-term community holistic health looks like, which differs not only from, you know, ethnic group to ethnic group, but from, you know, Vahipana to Vahipana, from Ahupua'a to a neighboring Ahupua'a. So, you know, the fact that your efforts are so community-led is just so mission-aligned with what we do here in ANA, all of our partners and grantees. So mahalo for sharing, very valuable. And so I know we're a little bit over time, but I do want to give an opportunity if anyone in the room has any questions, you can put them into the chat box and Shisa will read them out for our presenters to answer. And we have a couple minutes, so maybe time for maybe, you know, 1 or 2 questions if anyone has any questions.
So we do have one question that just came in, and the question asks, what's been the most effective way to get people to respond to the online mailer?
Okay, I guess I'll take that one. The most effective way to get people to respond has been just education and outreach, right? Getting them the information and the relevancy and tying it directly to them, their families, their communities, right? People are inspired. Yes, they can be motivated by others, but you have to be inspired yourself to actually move to action. So that's been one of the ways. It has been a lot of word of mouth, a lot of presentations like this. Before it was face to face, right? But now we have to distance ourselves physically, so it is like this. It's still alo ike alo, right? I can still see you, or there's still ways to connect. Technology makes it easy, but it has been communication, right? Communication.
And on that same line, what's the response that we should give for those who say that they've never received their online respondent code?
Okay, so a couple ways I'm going to respond to that. One, we talked about our update leave areas on the neighbor island versus like areas where they receive their mail. If they receive their post mail, you know, from the USPS at their houses and they did not receive their invitation, or, you know, people might have forgotten to put it on the side as well, they can go online, right, and still respond to it and select the option to respond without their household ID. The difference where for other people in our rural areas or in our update leave areas, right, and Richard shared those response rates are very low. It's because our update leave area, we physically have a worker drop off, right? They don't have to hand it to the resident, but they drop it off at the resident's home. So that hasn't happened. If they live in those areas where they don't get USPS mail at their homes, but have to go to the post office, then we're asking them to wait because we're going to restart those field and update leave operations soon.
And a really interesting question came up. What parts of Maui are historically undercounted?
I'm going to say where we have mostly Native Hawaiians in our local communities, not so much in, the tourist or where people have moved into from other areas because they normally engage anyway. So places like Hana, and I know CNHA also pulled out some specific data in our different counties and areas, but those are some of the areas there. And we can work with whoever asked that question if you want us to kind of help to show you where we can pull some of those so you can actually do it and follow on an ongoing basis and on your own as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share the specifics. I didn't prepare the specifics for today, but if they reach out to me, I'll be happy to share how to get it and what data we do have.
Oh, mahalo, Richard. I don't see any more questions in the queue. I'm going to hand things back over to Matt, but if you guys do have any questions, feel free to email, myself directly at info@ka'ananiao.com, or you can reach out to any of the contact informations that was previously listed on the screen. But thank you guys so much for coming. And Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank our presenters again. Mahalo ho'ia o ko, no kia halawai pono. This was an excellent opportunity. It is being recorded, so if you are watching this recorded, you can contact us on the info that was on the screen. Otherwise, if you attended live, we will be sending out some flyers and materials to provide more information using the email address that you registered with. Otherwise, thank you for attending and have a nice long weekend. Okay, aloha everyone.
Have a time, Matt.
Aloha.